Okay, so in a previous video we looked at the in-place upgrade process to get from Lync Server 2013 to Skype for Business Server, and in that same video we talked about the fact that if you're running Lync Server 2010 you'd need to go through a side-by-side or swing migration to get to Skype for Business, and that's what we'll look at in this video. The process itself is slightly more complex and indeed lengthier than an in-place upgrade, so we will dive straight in and get started. So this is our existing Lync 2010 environment, and we're actually on the front-end server now. You can see it's a single standard edition server. It's got some co-located roles, AV and mediation, and the stores are local as well. So the local backend SQL Express instance and the file store is held on this server as well. But it's this front-end server here that we're going to concentrate on migrating all the users away from, and all the services and applications as well onto a Skype for Business platform. So the first series of tasks that we're going to perform are all to do with making sure that the 2010 server and the environment is in a healthy state to migrate to Skype for Business. And so the first thing we'll do naturally is check to make sure that the server is up to date with Windows updates, and I've already done that, and it is. The second thing to ensure is that the Lync 2010 server is running the latest cumulative update. And if you're unsure, or if you're not, then you can grab the latest update from the Lync Downloads and Updates site. And on there you can download the cumulative update installer, which is here, and then follow the instructions on the remainder of the page to install that update. And then the final thing we need to grab while we're here is the Lync Server 2010 Best Practice Analyzer. I'll put links for all of these in the video description, but you need to download and install this tooling. You can download and install it on either the front-end server or a client machine. It's recommended to do it on a client machine. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I've just put it on this front-end server, and once it's installed, you can launch it from the Programs menu. It's quite basic and self-explanatory. It'll check for updates when you start it up. Just select or opt to perform a new scan, connect to an Active Directory instance or server, and let it do its thing. Naturally, depending on the size of your environment, each of these steps can take significantly longer than what it is here in this lab environment. But once you get to this point, you're going to start a new scan. Once again, this can be lengthy depending on the size of your topology, but once it's complete, you'll be able to view a scan report, which you'll have a link presented to you for, which is this one here. And you'll be presented with three tabs. The first one, all issues, recent changes, and informational items. But really, we're interested in this first tab here. Any warnings or errors that you see here, you should either acknowledge, understanding the risk, or resolve prior to moving forward. For me now, these are okay. The top one is to do with XP machines in a 2010 server environment, and the bottom two are just because my lab is under-resourced in terms of CPU and memory. Finally, we'll just check to make sure all the services are running on the front-end server at the moment, and then we're going to jump straight across to the Skype for Business server and start installing our prerequisites for Skype for Business. First up, we'll install the required Windows features via PowerShell, and I've placed this entire text in the video description so you can copy and paste it from there. Let it run through. It'll take quite a bit of time. It'll prompt for a restart. It'll install the features on the way down and again on the way back up. But once we're back at the desktop, we need to go to the Skype for Business Media and run setup. And while that's thinking about what it wants to do, I will mention as well that there is a single IIS hotfix KB2982006, which isn't pulled down as part of Windows updates, which is a prereq to install in Skype for Business server. The installer won't let you go any further without it. You'll get flagged with some red text saying you need to install the hotfix. So you can either do that one in advance, I've already done it, or do it when you get flagged. And that's for 2012 R2 OS, by the way. So we'll accept the license agreement. The screen prior to that was just asking me if I wanted to check for updates or not. I said yes, so now it's doing that. Next, no updates available. And from here, it will go into installing the Skype for Business 2015 core components. So this will give us access to the Skype for Business management shell and deployment wizard. This will take up to a couple of minutes to complete, and when it does, it will go straight into the deployment wizard. It will launch automatically. And from within there, the first thing that we're going to do is the task that's at the top left there, prepare Active Directory. And from within there, we're going to extend the schema, prepare the domain, and prepare the forest for Skype for Business server. Once this annoying splash screen disappears, there we go, we can go ahead and click Prepare Active Directory. It'll take us through to a new screen, and this is a simple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-step process. Click Run next to step 1, and this will extend the schema. Okay, click Finish once it's done. Cue the annoying splash screen again. And the next step is to verify that the step that we just conducted is actually completed successfully. To do that, we need to go into ADSI Edit. If you right click and choose Connect To, and then we are going to choose Schema under the naming context. And then if we extend this node, we're looking for the CN equals MSRTC SIP schema version, which should be in alphabetical order. Not up there. Here we go. Okay, and then here we're looking for the upper and lower range values. And we need those to be 3 and 1150 respectively. Next up, we'll prepare the forest, step 3. So click Run. Next. Local domain, unless you're doing this for a remote domain. Next. And finish. Nice and quick, that one. Once again, though, it has a verification step. This time we're going to go to local users and computers, and we're going to check to ensure that the relevant CS groups exist, the groups that are used for day-to-day administration, role-based access control. And then finally, prepare the current domain. Click Run, Next, and Finish. And for the third time, verification process. This time we need to open up the Skype for Business management shell. We'll go ahead and run a single management shell command from within here. Get-CSAD domain, and then specify the domain and a domain controller. Hit return, and we're looking for a domain state ready there, which we've got in caps. If it said not ready, then we'd have a problem, but it says ready, so that's good. And then we can get out of management shell. We're done in here. We go back one. Next up, we're going to install the admin tools or administrative tools. Click Next. This process will take about 30 seconds to complete. Once it's done, we'll have access to the Skype control panel, which is no use to us at the moment. But more importantly, we'll have access to the topology builder, which is where we're going to define our new Skype for Business front-end server and then go on to publish it in the deployment wizard in a moment. Once it's done, go ahead and click Finish. And we're done in the deployment wizard for the time being, so we can exit out of here. What we need next is the Skype for Business topology builder, which we'll find as part of our newly installed admin tools. So we'll go ahead and download the current topology. This is the topology that currently defines our existing environment. We'll save a copy of that just in case we do any serious damage that we want to undo. And here we are. So once we're in the topology builder now, if we extend Lync Server 2010 node, for example, we'll see exactly the same as what we did in the first instance when we were reviewing it on our 2010 front end. There's our 2010 standard edition box with co-located roles. But we're here to create a new Skype for Business Standard Edition server. So right click on Standard Edition Server Pool, New Front End, Next. Here we'll put the FQDN of our Skype for Business front end server, which is the one we're currently on incidentally. If I can spell it correctly. Next. And then here you're going to select the services and features that you want the front end to host. Now these are probably going to reflect what you've currently got on the 2010 front end server. Co-located mediation. I don't have an edge pool, but if you did, you could tick this box, and when you go to the next screen you could select it. But I'll go back one and untick that because I don't have an edge server at the moment. In here you can't change the SQL store because it's co-located SQL Express backend. Next. And now we need to define a file store. We could use an existing one, and you can see the old one, but that resides on a server we're going to take out of commission. So we need to define a new one. To do that, I'm going to put it on this standard edition box, just on the local storage, new folder, call it whatever you will, Skype share, right click, properties, sharing, advanced sharing. I'm going to share this just as Skype share. And then for the sharing permissions, I'm going to add the local administrators group into here. Give them full control. Okay, okay, okay. And that's done. You might have chosen to done that in advance. I didn't, so we did it then. And then we just simply type in the share name that we just defined and click next. Can't change the internal web services URL because it's a standard edition box. But your external one, although I haven't got an Edge, is likely to look something like that. You'll know what it is if you've got an Edge server. I don't have an Office web app server, so I'll untick that and click Finish. From here then, we can expand the standard edition node. You'll see our new server in there. There's co-located mediation, and we can review the details of configuration. And when we're happy with that, from the action menu, we can choose topology and publish. Go ahead and click next. And once this is complete, we should receive a series of success messages with green ticks next to them, like so. And we have the traditional click here to open a to-do list message, and there's our to-do list. We basically need to go ahead and run setup on our new Skype front-end server. And that's where we're going to go next, and we do that in the deployment wizard. So let's close all these windows and open up the Skype for Business deployment wizard. So familiar window, but this time we were in Prepare Active Directory node. Now we're going to jump into, once the annoying splash screen goes away again, install or update Skype for Business server system on the left-hand side. In here, once again, it's a rather self-explanatory step-by-step process. We'll click Run on step 1. We'll retrieve the central management store directly. Click Next. This one doesn't take too long to complete. Once done, click Finish. Just in time for another annoying splash screen. And then from here, we're going to go straight on to run step 2. So simply click Run, Next. And in complete contrast to the last step, this one can take, well, in my lab, this took 20 minutes to run in. So just be patient. I've condensed it all into 10 seconds for your viewing pleasure. And once it's done, simply click Finish. Once again, annoying splash screen, and then straight into step 3, request, install, and assign certificates. Select Request. Make sure your CA is selected at the top. You can amend the friendly name as you see fit, populate the fields as required, organization, organizational unit, state, and city. Choose the SIP domains that you want. There's only one SIP domain in this environment. If you click Advanced, this might look a lot more familiar to people that have been working with Lync Server. That's the old style certificate generation. Now I have this new window which looks slightly different. We don't need to go into Advanced. Review your certificates here. Make sure the relevant SIP domains are in there. Click Next. Next again. And we're going to go ahead and assign the certificate to services now, so make sure that's ticked. Click Finish, and then Next. And then providing there are no issues and the certificate can be associated to the services, you should get a series of green ticks. And we need to go ahead and repeat that process for the OAuth certificate. So same thing again, rename the certificate friendly name as you see fit. It would have retained all of the other variable information. We don't need to click Advanced, so click Next straight away. Next again. Next, we're going to assign it to services straight away. Click Finish, Next, Next, and Finish. Okay, that's our certificates done. We can close that window. You might notice at this point that it was at this stage we'd click the Start Services button to start all the Lync services, but that's no longer done from within there. Instead, advises you to start the services via the management shell. If it's a front-end server, you'll use start-cs pool. If it's any other role and you need to start Skype for Business services on there, then you'll use start-cs Windows service. So this is a front end. So start-cs pool, and then it will prompt us for the FQDN of our new Skype for Business front-end server. Okay, we're happy to go ahead with that. This takes a bit of time, and you'll see lots of yellow warnings as it's going through. Just be patient. It will happen. Once it's done, you can click exit or exit the management shell, and then click run on the service status optional section there. And this will open up the services MMC snap-in, just so we can make sure that all our Skype for Business services are actually running off the back of that management shell command. So if we just have a look, Skype for Business, here we go. So everything looks rosy, just as we like it. I've got a problem here. I have automatic updates turned on this lab machine. So let me just quickly fix that. Windows updates. It's a bit of a novice error. You won't have this in a production environment. If you do, you need to turn it off. Okay. Alrighty. So we're done in there. We can click exit. Okay, so that's all we need to do to bring a Skype for Business server into a coexistence scenario with Lync 2010. At this point, we're free to move pilot users onto the Skype for Business server, which we'll do shortly. And if all has gone to plan, those users should be blissfully unaware that anything has even changed, and they should be able to carry out their day-to-day activities as they normally would. So let's go ahead and move a single user using the Skype for Business control panel. At this point, we won't use Lync Server control panel or management shell for anything now. We'll use Skype for Business for everything we do. Select users. I've only got 3 users on this lab environment, but let's take Iron Man, action menu, move selected users to pool, and then we choose our new Skype front-end pool, click OK. And once this is completed, you'll see under the registrar column there that should update to the FQDN of our new front-end server, like so. So that's fine. And like I said, Iron Man should be able to carry on using Skype or Lync as he still sees it probably without any issues whatsoever. So let's pretend our pilot went really well. We're ready to make the jump. First up, DNS. We need to change any DNS records that are currently pointing to our existing standard edition front end. So in my case, ending in IP address .15 now needs to change to .20. We're going to decommission the old front-end server, so we need to change any record that makes any reference to it to point to our new Skype for Business front end. So you might have significantly more records. You'll most likely have more service records than that. But these are just the basic ones. Ultimately, it's a find and replace exercise, so you need to go ahead and do that. I mentioned as well actually on DNS before we move on, if you're coming from Lync Server 2010, then you most likely won't have Lync Discover internal record, which you'll need to create. That should point to the front end server. And for Skype for Business, there is a record that's yet to be leveraged called Scheduler. That will need to be created and also point to your front end server or pool. And that will be used at a later date when they release additional features for Skype for Business, depending on when you're viewing this video, obviously. Next up, we're going to start moving some of our applications and services, and we'll use the management shell to do that. And we're also going to use the control panel. So we'll use both of these for actually carrying out migration and verifying that the migration of applications is being performed correctly. So we'll just open these side by side. To kick things off then, we'd look at moving the bulk of our users. We already saw that we can move users by using the action menu and moving it to a different pool. But realistically, if you're moving users en masse, you're going to do it through the management shell using the move-cs user commandlet. You specify a target FQDN of the front-end registrar pool you want to move them to. And this will also allow you to specify whether or not you want to move the conferencing data for those users with the move conferencing data switch. Okay, once that's done, we can refresh here and you'll see all the users have moved over to the new registrar pool. Next up, we're going to look at the dial-in access number under the conferencing tab. You can see here in this screenshot that it's currently on our old front-end pool, and if we access it, you'll see that you can't actually change it from within the GUI there. So we need to use the management shell, get-cs dial-in conference access number, and on here it will tell us, you can see there again, the registrar pool is the old one. So the command we use to move that is move-cs application endpoint, and then identity, which we can reference from the above commandlet that we run. And this is going to be the SIP address of the dial-in access number. We then need to specify a target pool or target FQDN, and this is going to be the FQDN of our new Skype for Business front-end server. And then hit return. Once done, you can run the get CS dial-in conference access number again and just confirm that the information is updated in the relevant fields. Okay, all good. Next, we'll move our response group services. So click on response groups. I've got 2 in this lab, 2 workflows, 2 queues, 2 groups, all mapped to each other. So jumping back to our Lync management shell, we can run move-cs RGS configuration, and we need to specify a source, which is the FQDN of the legacy server, or what will be the legacy server, and then a destination, which will be the FQDN of our new Skype for Business server. Okay, once that's done, we'll experience something that sometimes catches people out. Our workflows, queues, and groups will double in number. The new ones will be created, but the old ones will be retained, and this is expected behavior. What you shouldn't do is go through and delete the 2010 ones. If you do that, your response groups will stop working. They'll remove themselves as we go through the decommissioning process. So this is expected, what we're seeing at the moment. You should see response group services, queues, workflows, etc. for both application servers, so duplicates essentially. That's right. Next, we need to consider what trusted applications we might have had in place against our legacy 2010 server. I can't remember if I've got any configured in the lab, so I'll just open up the topology builder. And extend the 2010 server, and there are no trusted applications in there. Incidentally, you can't migrate trusted applications. You simply need to redefine, reassociate, and replace them against the Skype for Business server as they are configured for your 2010 one. You can then go on to remove the trusted application from the 2010 server if you don't need it anymore. Okay, what have we got next? Callpark service. Okay, I think we've got Callpark configured. Yeah, so in Callpark we have a Callpark orbit associated to our legacy front-end 2010 server. Now there are 3 things we need to consider. First is music on hold, which will reside in the legacy file share in this directory. If you've got hold music, you need to copy it from here to the same directory in your new Skype for Business share. So that's 1 of 3. Part 2 of 3 is to run get-cps configuration and redefine these attributes or parameters as they exist currently in your Lync 2010 Callpark service. You can do that using the set CSCPS configuration. And then the third part is to go ahead and actually reassociate the Callpark orbit numbers with the new pool. And you can do that in the GUI there just by clicking commit. From Callpark, we'll go on to number normalization. So in Lync 2010 and Lync 2013, you had a text file known as company phone number normalization rules.txt. And the purpose of that text file was to assist in the normalization of numbers that reside in Active Directory but weren't in E164 format, and the normalization rules and patterns within that text file would translate them to E164, thereby allowing them to appear in the Lync address book. So that's gone out the window with Skype for Business server, and that text file is no longer leveraged. Instead, it's all handled in-house, if you like, with PowerShell commands now. Now that file itself resides, as I said, in the Lync 2010 file share, web services, address book files. If you don't see that file located in here, then you're not leveraging it, you don't have to worry. If you do see it, then you can import it into Skype for Business using import-cs company phone normalization rules and specifying a file name. Okay, we don't need any of that. Next, we'll move our common area phones and our analog devices. We can run the command get-cs common area phone to see if we've got any. I have one for my lab environment. And to move that, we just get-cs common area phone and then pipe that to a move cs common area phone command. We specify the target, once again, the new Skype for Business server or Skype for Business front-end pool. Hit return. Yes, we're happy to move that. And once it's done, we can run the same commandlet again, and we can just verify that the registrar pool has been updated to our new Skype for Business front end. It's a rinse and repeat process for analog devices. Get-cs analog device. Once again, you can see the registrar pool is the old pool. So get-cs analog device, pipe that to a move command, specify the target, the Skype for Business front end pool, and hit return. These are significantly quicker. And then once again, get-cs analog device to verify that the registrar pool has been updated. Okay, next we're going to move the central management store. If I had to pick a squeaky bum moment during a swing migration, this would be it. Install -cs database, -central management store, specify the SQL Server FQDN, which is actually going to be our new Skype for Business front-end pool. And then the instance. What's going on there? There we go. RTC, hit return. And this will take a moment to go through. Once it does, we need to run enable-cs topology. We use move-cs management server and hit return. And when we execute this, it will give us a current state and a proposed state. And you can see there that everything currently resides on the old server pool. And if we execute this command, it's going to move everything across to our Skype for Business server. That's what we're happy with. So we go ahead and execute that. Okay, so that's the move instigated. It's not the move complete. We now need to go ahead and uninstall the central management store from the 2010 server, but only once we're confident that the central management store has replicated fully. So let's jump over to that server. We'll run get-cs management store replication status, and this should read true and have a valid timestamp on it, and from that we'll be able to tell whether or not replication has occurred recently, and we're okay to remove the central management store from the 2010 box. When we are, uninstall CS database, central management database, and then the SQL Server FQDN, and the SQL instance is RTC, and yes. You must run this from the 2010 server. If you try and execute that from your Skype for Business server, you'll be there all day. It'll just keep feeding back that the SQL version is insufficient and it needs a minor upgrade, or words to that effect. Okay, not too much left. We're done on here, so we can get back onto our front end and look at conferencing directories. Get-cs conference directory. We'll spit out the conferencing directories that exist in our environment. There are currently two. One, as you can see, is on the old server and one is on the new. And we need to move the one that's on Gecko-FE01 across to Skype for Business server. It's quite simple. Move-cf conferencing directory, and then we specify the identity from the output that's listed above. Target FQDN, yes. and hit return. That takes care of our conferencing directories, and if we run that same command again, you'll see that both server IDs now reside on the Skype for Business front-end server. Okay, I think we're pretty much done. We don't need the control panel anymore, so let's close that one. We do need the topology builder because it's at this point where we're going to go ahead and take out the remnants of the 2010 front end, the file stores and the SQL stores, etc. So we'll fire this one up. It's entirely up to you how long you'd like to leave the 2010 server in there for in a coexistence scenario. There's nothing to say you have to take it out as soon as you've migrated your users and applications. You could leave it there for a month for all intensive purposes. But there's our 2010 server that we're going to take out. We don't have any archiving servers. There are a few shared components, such as trunks at the moment. So let's edit that and point that to our new Skype for Business server. And this is really just a sanity check to make sure that anything that is still referencing the server is redirected to our Skype for Business server. We've got SQL stores and file stores. So let's delete our front end, and that will automatically remove the file store. But the SQL store we need to actually right click on and choose delete. And at that point now, there is absolutely nothing in this topology to do with 2010, and I'm confident there's nothing in there that's referencing it or pointing towards it. So let's go ahead and publish it. It gives you a bit of a warning when you're removing the front end saying, hey, you sure about this? Yes, for sure. And then we've got traditional to-do list. So you need to run setup on both of those servers, and then you need to run uninstall CS database RTC on Gecko-FEO1. We already did that, the uninstalled database, so that's fine. But the setup commands, we need to go ahead and do that. So let's click finish. Then open the Skype for Business deployment wizard on this front end. I'll do this on this front end, but I won't go ahead and do it on the 2010 one. I'm sure you can manage that now. So once my favorite splash screen goes away, I'll go ahead and click run on step 2, like so, and then next, and we'll let that run in. Now while that's going through, I'll just take a moment to mention some things that weren't configured in my lab that will need attention if they're applicable to you. The first bullet that hits people that they don't normally dodge is DHCP scope options if you are using enterprise voice. So if you're using enterprise voice and you have IP desk phones that are leveraging DHCP options, bear in mind those DHCP options will probably point at your old front-end server, so you'll need to redefine those. The second point, or the second bullet that normally catches people, is Exchange Unified Messaging. If you're leveraging enterprise voice and you're using the unified messaging role on Exchange servers for voicemail functionality and other services, then the subscriber access and the auto-attendant contact objects will probably reside on your legacy 2010 front end as well, and you'll need to migrate those. But other than that, that's pretty much it. The Lync Server 2010 Swing migration to Skype for Business done. Feel free to like, subscribe, and visit geckostudio.co.uk for more Lync and Skype related content.